All right, everybody. This is Anthony with the Real Lives Collective. Just give me 2 seconds, real quick. If anybody is watching this, I'm just trying to make sure that everything is hooked up nice and good. And yeah, just give me 1 second. Yeah. All right, and we're good on this side on YouTube, and we're good on Facebook, bro. So
All right.
let's see. Yeah, we're all good, side by side. All right. So where were you born at? Let's start there.
I was born here in Lebanon, Tennessee.
Okay. And growing up, what was your child life like?
I don't know, man. When we were young, man, I remember as far back as I can, we were in the projects over here behind the house that I live in now. I remember my whole family was a tight knit family. We were always with each other, always around each other. We lived around each other. So my earliest memories go back to Upton Heights projects here in Lebanon. And man, my family's just kind of wild family, man. We didn't have a lot. Um, we had everything in my family though. We had addiction, we had alcoholics, we had people smoke weed, probably smoked dope, shot dope, did pills. We had all those things, man. And it's just my family would be considered just one of them wild and crazy kind of white families. You know what I'm saying? Like dirty jokes all the time, a lot of foul language. You know what I mean? There was always a fight going on with somebody in our family, or uh, I felt like a lot of the women in my family got abused by the men. And so just as early as I can remember, as far as that goes, it's just I don't know, man. We was just probably considered poor white trash to some people.
Yeah, when you're saying abuse, is this like a lot of it have to do with like people getting drunk and doing drugs and just like the typical like abuse that goes on in families like that. It goes hand in
Well,
hand.
it could be like that with some of my other family members, but like with my dad, I've never. I mean, until I got older, I'd never seen my dad do drugs. I mean, he might have smoked weed or something like that, but I never seen my dad do drugs in front of us. So, like with my dad, I think that my dad just kind of grew up so screwed up himself, and I don't really know a lot about my dad's raising. I mean, I had to put that out there now, but I guess he might have just grew up pretty rough himself, and it just caused him to really just not know how to parent. And I just remember when I was little, man, like it was a Caldwell thing to be tough, like to have the bad name, to be the black sheep, right? And my family, the Caldwell side of my family, took a lot of pride in being like these outlaws, these this real big name. And so for the boys and the girls growing up, it was pretty rough on us sometimes. They would always pit us against each other, make us fight each other. They was always like wrestling with us, slamming us. And with my dad, I think my dad took it a step further. My dad never really put his hands on my little brother Adam. My sister never got it. My sister's the big sister. She's the oldest. She was daddy's little girl, so she never went through none of the stuff that me and Adam went through. But me physically, man, it was just like I think it was my dad's mission to kind of just train me to just be this rock solid, hardcore Caldwell. And so with my dad's mentality being that, my dad was real violent toward me. Uh, just I don't know, I call them torture games sometimes. My dad would invent these games where uh, he would beat on me, punch on me, put me through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And the whole time he would be like coaching me into saying like, this is gonna make you tough. Like you got to go through this. And so I just remember that. I remember being confused a lot as a kid. Like what do I do, man? Because if I do what he tells me to do, I get in trouble. If I don't do what he tells me to do, I get in trouble, right? And so I just there's games that he played. There's a game he used to play with his friends. They'd come over with their little boys, and after they pit us all against each other and made us fight as kids, and I pretty much beat everybody up. After that, it was always about, well, okay, your kid can beat my kid up, but your kid's not tougher than mine. So my dad invented this game where he would stand me in front of him when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, and he would smack me as hard as he could, and it would smack me plumb across the living room. And I remember he made it to where it was fun. So like it was something that I was connected with my dad with. It was something that I was making him proud of, right? And I remember it hurt. Like he would smack me hard enough to have my ears ringing, have me seeing like stars. You know what I'm saying? but the objective was to get smacked hard enough across that room, jump back up, run back over, and do it again. And my dad would do this continuously in front of his friends, and to the point to where they're like, "Man, Danny, you got to freaking stop! You're gonna kill this kid." You know what I mean? And so there was that. There was games like that he taught me, and then there was just abuse. There were moments where he just lost himself, or I don't know what you call it. And there was moments where he just literally beat the hell out of me, and he tortured me. And one of the worst whoopings I ever got from my dad whooped me from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet with a thorn bush one time. And my mom wasn't there, and my dad threw me in a scalding hot bath. And I remember when he did that, I remember I was screaming and I was crying, like screaming at the top of my lungs. And I remember that my dad grabbed me out of this bathtub and he grabbed me. And I remember being naked and I was hurting, I was burning all over. And I remember him screaming and crying. He don't know why he just did that. You know, there was moments like that. And to this day, my mom, she's like, Jeremiah, she's like, I just don't know how I didn't see these things. Like, how did I miss these things? And being older now, just knowing that my dad just knew how to pick the time to do certain things, right? Because see, my mom wasn't like that. My mom to this day has always been like my best friend, my number one. Loving, caring, kind, compassionate, slave herself, work herself to death for her three kids. But my mom was the mom. My mom got abused by my dad. You know, my dad used to put his hands on my mama. My mama would give it right back to him, though. My mama wasn't no pushover or nothing like that. But there was fighting in front of us. There was abuse in front of us. And just when she was gone, it's like when the cat's away, the mice will play kind of deal. So when she was gone, that's just when my dad became more dark, and he would do more things like this, you know, until I just got to where I was just robbed of emotions a lot as a kid. And on top of that, man, I was really ADHD, bipolar, and my mind never shut off, man. Like I could never sit still. I didn't sleep good. I was always paranoid as a kid, like something was going to happen. I remember while my family slept, I would walk around as a kid, and I would check the windows and the doors. It was like I was doing a perimeter check with like a butcher knife in my hand as a kid, right? And I remember many nights thinking about trying to kill my dad in his sleep, stabbing him and stuff like that. Like, I just want to kill dude and hurt dude. But then I loved him and cared about him too because he was my dad. I looked up to him no matter what he did to me, you know? So I don't know. The abuse was physical. It was mental. It was emotional. And one of the last incidents that happened in my life as a kid that I kind of tell people that robbed me of my innocence was my dad and my uncle found out that I had a friend, and he was mentally retarded. And so my uncle seen me playing with this friend. My uncle was drunk when he come over one time, and he seen me playing with this kid. And he went in there and asked my dad, he's like, "What the F is this crap?" And my dad's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, Jeremy's out there playing with an effing retarded kid." You know what I mean? And so they called me in the house, and they tell me that I have to go out here and I have to beat this kid up. And I didn't want to, and because I knew how they were, and I didn't really know how to just go beat somebody up. I went out there and I hurt the kid real bad. I beat him up. I busted his nose and busted his face up, and I picked his bicycle up. I slammed it on top of him. I tried to kill him. And I remember I went back to my dad's house and I got caught crying, and that's when they kind of like punished me for crying. And now I don't say all these things right now for anybody to go judging my dad. You know what I mean? Like this was, I'm fixing to be 43 in May. You know what I mean? This was back in the 80s, 90s. My dad was just a very lost man. You know, he couldn't show what he never had or he never been shown in life. And so me being who I am now, like I had this different understanding. Like I had no malice, no hate, no anger toward my dad. You feel me? Like I've forgiven him and everybody for anything they've ever done to me. But I went through abuse at the hands of two different men. And so when my mom remarried after divorcing my dad, me and my stepdad, we had some moments where there was some physical abuse. But again, another man that stepped in that was a great father figure was awesome, and he took on a woman with three crazy, wild, rambunctious kids, man, that had been through abuse, that never really had nothing, and man, it was me of all of them out of control. Like, man, I couldn't be controlled. Like I tried to stab people. I tried to kill people as kids, my own family members. I used to beat everybody up. I used to assault everybody, attack everybody. Um, I was just I was uncontrollable, man, and I was actually diagnosed. I want to say I was diagnosed as homicidal as a kid because only a few times in my life did I ever want to hurt myself. It turned into where I wanted to kill other people and hurt other people. So I went through abuse with my second stepdad, well, my first stepdad, and it lasted for a while. But he got caught one time in the middle of an act of kind of beating up on me pretty good, and then they got took to jail, and they took my mom to jail that day. And my mom had nothing to do with anything. You know, she wasn't even in the house when it was happening. But it was such a big ordeal that we ended up losing our house in the country. They ended up facing like 8 years in prison. I ended up getting sent off to juvenile. Like there's a lot to it, man. But my stepdad went on to get help and to become my father. He took all these parenting classes, man. And later on in life, man, he never laid another hand on me. He was always there for me. And I actually, there's no man in this world I've ever learned more from than him. And he passed away 5 years ago. And my last memory with him was me talking to him on the phone while I was facing the rest of my life in prison, and us praying together. And then a few days later, he had a heart attack and died. So like that, nothing that I've went through as far as the abuse goes with the men, man, none of that. Man, that's something that happened that I've grown from. I'm stronger from. I'm wiser from. I'm humble from, and it's not nothing that I live in bitterness. You know what I'm saying? With so there's that, but whatever you want to know, man, I'm here to tell and talk about whatever, man.
Yeah, was there any any time that you like stood up for yourself against your dad when you were going through all these things?
Oh man, all the time. Listen, man, there was times when my dad was whooping my mom in front of me, man. And I would jump in and I'd take a few licks from my mom. She'd jump in and take a few licks from me. Man, I never one time, I never one time, if I seen my mom going through it, didn't stand up for my mom. I tried kicking in doors as a kid, which I wouldn't. Man, I was a little lanky kid, man. Like I wasn't really big enough to do no damage. But I always try to fight and stand up for my mom. I tried to stand up for myself. You know what I mean? I fought my dad a few times. The first time I was ever big enough to stand up for myself, I actually worked with my real dad, and I was 15 or 16 years old, and we were working together at a Hardee's on West Main up here in Lebanon, Tennessee. And this girl used to come in to see me. And one day, this girl come in. I took my lunch because there was nothing going on, and my dad just tried to like act tough in front of this girl. And when he did, man, that's when I lost my stuff. And I looked at him that day. I said, "Listen, I'm not a kid no more." I said, "Man, I've been waiting 15 or 16 years for this anyway." And man, that day I really hurt my dad pretty good, man. I beat the hell out of my dad that day, and I whooped him bad enough for the police to get called. He hid me in a freezer, covered me up with boxes, said it was three other guys that did it, and took off running. It was crazy, man, because I was whooping him so bad that day that cars were stopping in the middle of West Main and watching through the restaurant windows, and the guys that worked at the gas station across the street were watching, and they later came over and said, "Man, we don't know what happened, but man, you whooped the hell out of him, man." And it just, I had got to a point in my life where I had went through so much abuse from my dad, and so much negativity, and so much just denial and rejection with my dad, that it was really a lot of pent up stuff. Like I had always planned on killing my dad when I got older. I always told myself that when I get older and I get a chance and I can kill him and get away with it, I'm gonna do it, man. So the day that me and him really got into it for the first time and I handled my business like a man, I was like 15 or 16. And from that day forward, it was a different respect level. Like I think my dad had realized what he had created, and I think that I had become more than what he wanted me to become. I think he wanted me to be something, something to be a force to be reckoned with, or something to be feared. But I think that I far exceeded that, and then he kind of began to fear me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've had it out with my dad. It ain't nothing I'm proud of. You know what I mean?
So
It's
during this time, was there a lot of drug abuse going around? And talk about some of the things you've seen with the drugs going around.
man, I had family members. Like I said, in my immediate home, man, there wasn't any drugs. Like I never seen my real dad. I don't think I've ever seen my real dad drink. And like, when I got older, yeah, I seen him do some stuff, but never younger did I see anything. my stepdad, big daddy, my mama, man, there was never any drugs or alcohol in the house that I know of. The most they did was smoke cigarettes. Now my stepdad come from a addiction, you know. He was on heroin and all that stuff, alcohol and all that stuff. But man, these things weren't in front of us. Like these things weren't prevalent like it is with a lot of kids. Um, the drugs were later on in my life. Now I had uncles and them and aunts and them that smoked dope, drank, got high and all that, but like we knew who they were, right? Um, but the only person that ever really was just drunk or high around us was my Uncle Blackie. He just passed away. And but there was never drug use like that with immediate family. Now we would go to like my aunt's house where she was a drug addict, and yeah, they'd be getting high and doing stuff. We'd go hang out in the projects or in the hood or wherever we wanted to, and there'd be drug use there. We'd be kids selling drugs and stuff like that, especially when I started the gang life. But as far as at home, nah, man, there wasn't none of that, man. She didn't even want us. My mom didn't even want us watching Bart Simpson, man. You know what I mean? She tried her best to just be that mother that kept negative influences out of our lives, and she didn't just listen to whatever music we wanted to. But man, by the time I was 12, I joined the gang, man. And so I mean, I was really rebellious from my whole age. But as I got older in the gang life and got more violent in the gang life, and got more recognition in the gang life, man. It was just nothing nobody could do, man. I found my calling. You know what I mean? When I joined the Gangster Disciples, yeah, I was a little young white kid. A lot of people respected me. A lot of people didn't. I didn't care because I felt like that I was gonna earn my respect one way or the other. You know what I mean? And I earned my respect with violence. And by the time I was 13 year old, I was a shooter. You know, I was the kid they gave the gun to and said, go do this. And man, I enjoyed it. I had been through so much violence and abuse, you know what I mean? And so when it was time to do these things, it just felt natural to me. It felt like second nature to me.
It was like
So
a drug. It was like a drug itself.
oh man, I was addicted to it. I was addicted to being a gangster, man. Like I didn't sit around as a kid watching movies about firefighters and cops and want to go be a firefighter or a cop. Man, I watched movies about gangsters and wanted to go be a gangster. I wanted to go be a killer, man. I wanted to sell drugs, be with a lot of women. I wanted to have money. I wanted everybody to know my name and look up to me. And that was my ambitions in life. And I was just really good at fighting, and really good at violence, and I was really good at building a reputation, man. And so that's what my life was about. And I don't know, around 14 or 15 years old, man, my name was just so big. And the people that I ran with, you know, the brothers that I ran with, our name was kind of so big, man, that really everywhere we went, everybody did what we told them to do. You know what I mean? Like people really didn't give us a lot of crap, man. And if they did, man, then bro, we just let them have it one way or the other. We didn't care how it had to happen. It was going to happen, you know. And I was usually always the one starting stuff. You know, like all my friends, like I was the fighter. You know, anytime anybody I grew up with had a problem, they'd call me. And they'd be like, hey, bro, these dudes are over talking trash, or hey, bro, these dudes are trying to fight us. And man, one call would lead to two, two to three, three to four. I'm telling you, man, by the time we showed up on people, man, it'd be 30, 40, 50 people sometimes. And just to fight two or three people, we took it to an extreme a lot of times in life, but that's how we lived, man. That's what we wanted to do.
So how did you get into the gang life, and what age did you start into the gang life? Like, tell
I
the
got into
story of
gang
how
life.
you got
I
into
got into gang life around 12 years old. Man, I just remember being a kid, man. And you know your mom and dad can't always keep an eye on you. They do their best, right? And so my mom did, man. She tried to do her best, but man, we would go places and we would run around town. And I always looked up to these older black gangsters, man. And I used to tell them, man, I'm gonna be one of y'all when I grow up. And some of them would laugh, and some of them be like, "Shoot, that boy ain't playing. He's serious. Like he really wants to do this." And so I remember watching them throw gang signs. I remember watching them sell drugs. I remember watching them carry guns, have money, gold chains, and gold teeth. And I just remember it, man. I remember just the way they carried themselves. Is like, man, that's what I want to do. And that was my influence. It was the movies. It was the music. It was what was around me. It's the abuse that I went through. And it was trying to find myself. And So that's when I did it at 12 years old, man. Believe it or not, man, I got whooped by some grown men. And and people can say what they want to, man. People come in different ways. Some people say, no, they don't do it like that no more. Well, listen, I know how I came in. You know, and I know how the process went for me, man. And I got the hell beat out of me when I was a kid. And I remember walking in my mama's house busted up. And my mama looked at me and she's like, what happened to you? And I told my mama, I said, I just joined the gang. I said, I'm a gangster now. And my mom at this time, to this day, she'll tell you, she's like, I wish I would have listened to him. And she said, but I thought it was a phase. I thought it was something that he was just going to go through, get over, and then it'd be on to the next thing. Now, I grew into being a gangster. And that's when I started doing crazy stuff. Like, if you took your eyes off of me, you could have your eyes on me and I could be doing something stupid. I just was really steeped in that culture, man. And that was my gateway to how I wanted to live my life. It wasn't drugs and none of that. I didn't do drugs until I got older. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
sold drugs here and there. I sold guns and weed and stuff here and there, maybe a pill. I would drink some old English or some Coke 45 or something like that, drink some liquor every now and again. But man, I wasn't a drug addict growing up. I was a thug addict, man. I tell people I was addicted to being just violent, man. I enjoyed it, you know?
So do you think if your father didn't instill so much violence into you that you might have went down a different path?
It's hard to tell, man. I mean, it's a very big possibility I could have done something else. You know, I remember telling a pro board one time when I was in prison, I went up for parole, and I said, no disrespect. I said, if my dad would have taught me how to hammer nails growing up, I might have built houses. I said, but I never learned how to hammer a nail growing up. And now I was a little boy, like I wanted to learn things. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be able to work on a car maybe or this maybe, like, you know what I mean? But it just I wasn't intrigued by it. I had my cousin Missy had a husband named James, and he was one of my role models as a kid. And he was one of the men in my life, man, that when I was like 14 or 15 years old, when I was gang banging hard, he gave me a job helping him do roofing and stuff like that. And he paid me like $50 a day, $50 a day, and I'd go work for him. He'd pick me up. You know what I mean? Like he tried to teach me things, and I was a Golden Glove boxer. You know what I mean? Like I had things I could have done. I played football, I played baseball. I was an all-star athlete, man. Uh, but none of that was being a gangster, man. And I got my stepdad tried to introduce me to sports and stuff like that, and I did great at all these things. I still had this attention deficit. I still had this being in love, this infatuation with the gang life. But it could have went a lot different had my dad went outside and taught me how to cut grass and how to weed eat and how to work on cars and stuff. It could have went totally different, you know. But for where I stand now with who I am now, man, I'm so glad it went the way it went and that I am who I am now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Every little piece in our life connects together to make us whole, you know. And sometimes we're just blind at the little things that are around us and like the negative and the good, you know, like we don't see that even the negative stuff has its place. It's just the way that we look at it and we deal with that negative, you know.
Well, as you go through
Um,
adolescence, man, it comes a point in your life, man, where you got to stop being an adolescent. You know what I mean? It comes a point in life where you got to stop walking and talking and thinking and acting like a child and just be a man or a woman. You know what I mean? And if you're fortunate enough, if you're blessed enough to live through all these things, either you do two things from it: you grow from it, or you don't. And that's it, man. You take in all these experiences in your life, man, and you just try to collectively hope it comes together for you. And for a lot of people, it doesn't, man. A lot of people, man, they get lost in the sauce, as they say. They just get lost in one way of life, and that's it. And I was no different, man. Listen, when I joined the gang life, man, I had found my calling, man. Like, this is what I wanted to be, and I embraced it, man. Like, I had finally found that thing that completed me, like made me whole. And man, I thought that the life that I was living was gonna be the only life I would ever live for the rest of my life, and I was okay with that. I was okay living that, being locked up with it, dying from it. I mean, I was okay with it, man. So yeah,
so when was the first time you got locked up and what was it for?
man, I've been in and out of facilities my whole life. So I had a lot of this mental health thing as a kid. And if you're a kid like how I was, ADHD, bipolar, ADD, you're in and out of a lot of mental health hospitals. You go to a lot of mental health programs, and all they're trying to do, man, is just trying to figure out a way to stabilize you, a way to make you feel normal, a way to keep you from just being a million miles an hour and bouncing all over every place, and they're trying to slow you down, and they're trying to instill some normalcy in you. And with me, man, I've just, as far back as I can remember, man, I've been in institutions and facilities. You know, my family was so desperate to try to help me, man. I remember my mom and my family carrying me in front of churches and them trying to like pray demons out of me and stuff, man. And I'm not playing about none of this, man. Like, my mom was so desperate, man. They would pour oil all over me, pray with me at church. She'd take me to all these places to try to get me on all this medicine. And so, man, pretty much my entire life, man, since at least 1993, as far back as I can remember being in hospitals and institutions.
You remember the very first time though, and what it was for though?
Um, Man, I might have been. It might have been this place called. Well, I was born at McFarland in Lebanon. It's now a different place. It's still the hospital that's still there. They house. I think they did some mental health stuff there. I want to say, man, 8, 9, 10 years old, and it was just I was real suicidal and homicidal. I was real violent, man, and I just couldn't be controlled. And I remember going to places like the Pavilion, MTMHI, Tennessee Christian Medical Center. I've been to these juvenile places like D.D. Wallace, Clarksville Diagnostic. Been all over these wilderness programs, group homes in Wilson County, Columbia, Lewisburg, Murfreesboro, Pikeville, Tennessee. I was at Taft Youth Development Center, which was like the most dangerous juvenile in Tennessee. Been a dozen, I don't know, buku foster homes all over Tennessee. Um, Man, I've probably been in 20, 30 facilities as a kid, and I think 8 facilities as an adult, as far as prisons go and jails. It's just far back as I can remember, man. That's been my life, you know.
What was the most amount of time that you did as an adult?
As an adult, the longest stretch I did was an 8.5 year stretch. So I got an 8 year sentence my first time in prison. I was 18. I had just got out of juvenile. 8 days after I turned 18, they let me out of Taft Youth Development Center. Now I got my GED there when I was 17. By September of 2001, I was already locked up facing 48 years in prison. I got out May 23rd, 2001. And by September, I had been arrested for domestic fighting with my little brother. I got put in jail for that. I got put in jail for aggravated assault, about beat a guy to death. And then I got put in jail for aggravated robbery. And I got 8 years for that. I did 3 years. I got out for 80 days and turned an 8 year sentence into a 24-year sentence. I caught 5 more aggravated robberies. I did 8.5 years straight that time. And now that was one of the most difficult times of my life. That was a time of betrayal, darkness, um, man, a time where I just got more lost than I'd ever been in my life. I can talk about that. I don't mind talking about that at all.
Yeah, how were you lost? How so? What do you mean by that?
So when I got locked, so after I did the 3 years and I got out for 80 days, I just started robbing again. I experimented with the cocaine a little bit then, and I just got out instead of just going to stay with my family, man, and just letting them help me and all this. I was still young. I was still a gangster. I was affiliated. Had the gang tattoos on me and all this. And I immediately, just that night, I went to this girl's house that I'd been talking to, got myself involved in a no good relationship, and just being a gangster, man, ready to recruit people, put people down, have that name. I started selling a bunch of cocaine and crack, and I started robbing again. And man, in 80 days, man, I got surrounded by cops. I actually got snitched on by my dad this time, and my dad was my charge partner. And so my dad snitched on me. The girl that I was with, they told on me and one of my other GD brothers at the time. And this time I got locked up. I was facing the rest of my life, but I ended up signing a 24-year sentence. Now, when I went back to prison, I wasn't even out a couple of months. You got to understand, I just got out of prison, and basically as soon as I got out, I come back. So I get back to prison. I'm 21 years old, man, and it's hitting me like, dang, I just got a 24-year sentence. It felt like a life sentence, man, and life was 60 to 51. So I started calling my sentence a baby life sentence, and I started living my sentence like I was never gonna get out. And I started getting really deep into violence, penitentiary violence, jumping people, beating people half to death, trying to kill people, violating people, heart checking people, close, getting on put on close, getting violent write ups. And in this time, man, I go to a prison called South Central here in Tennessee, and I experienced what they call a cross out. It's where the brothers, some of the brothers, man, kind of turned their back on me, man, and they crossed me out. And I was being loyal to GD. Like I loved it. I lived for it. I bled for it. I shed blood for it, and I pledged my whole heart to it. I pledged death before dishonor. And when it turned its back on me, man, like it left me in the most lost, broken place in my life. And I got jumped by some brothers, man, walking back from the child hall one time. I had to go to protective custody. I've been through that 2 or 3 times, come back off, um, got back on count at another prison, doing the gang life again, went through some more cross out stuff. And man, finally, it's just like I grew really, really dark in my heart. I became real more violent than I'd ever been because now the gang that I love more than anything in the world had turned its back on me twice, and now like I just wanted to hurt everybody. And man, I just became a very bloodthirsty person. Man, I used to just set people up just to hurt them on purpose. I singled out sex offenders and stuff like that, man, and extort them. Started selling drugs, doing everything pretty much on my own, and that's when I hated God. Just I just remember the days where I felt like I was never going to get out, man. Like you look inside prison, man, you're in them cells and you're looking out that little window and you see nothing but razor wires and fences on fences, man. And you got these cold walls, this cold cell. It stink, it's loud, the food's nasty. You feel forgotten about, you feel lost, and you're in this place and you're looking out like, man, is this ever going to happen? Like, am I ever going to make it out of this prison? And you feel like that. What are you gonna do if you do make it out? And that like, 'cause I felt like I was a monster. I felt like an animal inside. I did not feel human in any way. I wanted to love. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to one day be a father. I wanted to be free. Maybe one day have a career. You know, do something with my life. But it wasn't fathomable, man. Because all I ever thought was messed up, evil crap. All I ever did was messed up stuff. And I would make phone calls to my mom from prison during this time, and I would be so lost. And I remember my mom crying, praying for me on the phone. There was times where I would try to listen to the God stuff, but I'm like, nah, forget that crap. Uh, I tattooed upside down crosses on my body, 666 F the world. I got all these demonic looking tattoos on me. I got these gang tattoos on me, all these hateful things on me. And man, I just became a hate monger, man. And I don't know, man. I was a really lost person for a really long time in that 8.5 years. And before I got out, man, I was still living a criminal life. You know, I did 5 years at Hardeman County Prison. I went to Hardeman County Prison in 2005. I got out in 2010. But I didn't get out of prison. I went to another prison in 2010. I went to Bledsoe in Pikeville, Tennessee. And while I was there, man, I got introduced to bodybuilding. So for the first time in my life, I wasn't into gang stuff then, but I started lifting weights and bodybuilding. I got to be a 235 pound man, and got to learning how to bench 340 pounds and stuff like that, and got on these weights and started enjoying that. And but I still had that criminal mentality. And so there, I was just trying to hustle to take care of myself because when I left Hardeman County, I was getting pills in, I was getting contraband in, I was having relationships with my women guards there, cell phones there. So when I got to Pikeville, Bledsoe Prison, I had a lot of money from how I was hustling in Hardeman County. So my next thing was, okay, I got to establish a hustle here. So I get down there, I earn my way to the annex at Bledsoe, and then my brother-in-law, who's Aryan Nation, him and my sister, I get a cell phone and I start talking them into sneaking on the prison compound at night and dropping me off 50-gallon trash bags full of phones and tobacco, like dip and rolling tobacco and cell phones. And so I start getting people that work on the farm go pick my stuff up in the middle of these prison farmyards and sneak it into me at the annex. And so, man, I built me an enterprise at this prison. I'm getting stuff snuck to the compound from the annex. I'm making money hand over fist, man. Thousands and thousands of dollars, man. And I got my buddy Trey with me. big brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm making sure he's right there with me, and me and him together, man. We just become this freaking team that just is smarter than anybody that's probably ever stepped on that annex. Um, we get so much stuff in the compound that the green team, the Eternal Affairs team, is trying to catch us in every way they can. You know what I mean? And they literally set me up one day, said they found something on me, around me that wasn't mine. I got rolled up, kicked out of the annex, lost my parole. I beat the write up, got sent back to the annex, and it was full speed ahead. I mean, we literally used to sneak in the weight room, pull the dumbbells out, go into our units, pull the signs off the walls, beat holes in the signs behind the walls, stuff dope, tobacco, phones in these signs, and hang them back up. So that way the police could never find our stashes, man. We were literally turning everything in front of your face into a hiding spot and bringing in all this stuff. So, like, when I got out of prison in 2013, uh, I wasn't as bad as I was. You know what I mean? Like, I never went back to picking up guns and robbing and stuff like that. I just felt like that because I was doing things a different way. Like, it wasn't as bad. You feel me? Like, after about a year and a half of being out of prison after doing 8.5 year stretch, I started back slowly hustling, selling drugs. And then eventually I had a 2-story cottage on a crap ton of land with a creek, had a good life. I was working legit, but I was involving my hand in selling weed, selling guns, and then it became selling cocaine, then heroin, then ice. And then I began to dabble a little bit in drugs then, but I got sent back to prison over a fist fight. I got into it with 3 guys. I knocked one guy out, fought the other two. I got away before the cops came. About a week later, I got caught and got arrested. And I was facing 20 more years at 45% behind this fight. And I made bond and I went on the run and I got caught on the run. And so I ended up beating those charges. Those 3 guys came to my pro hearing and testified that I wasn't the guy that they got into it that night. They got into it with that night. And so they dropped a 20-year charge. I opened Trousdale Penitentiary. I did 26 more months on that violation. And I was one of the first people at Trousdale Prison. And wow, that was a crazy place. Uh, the most violence I'd ever seen in my life was at Trousdale Penitentiary in 2016 when it opened.
Yeah, let's talk about
That year when it
it
opened, if you
because
wasn't a
I
gang member, you was a victim most of the part. I married my first wife there. You know what I'm saying? I was I was like a chief enforcer uh, at the compound. Like I was a chief of security there when it comes to the gangsters. I ended up getting back on count, running with the gangsters again, and we had a very successful time there. Believe it or not, like through all the killing and the stabbing and the violence that happened there, I made it through unscathed. I had a few incidents where I almost killed a couple people. They lived. I never got charged with anything, and I ended up getting out. 6 months later, I flattened a 24-year sentence, and my house got raided in the same month that I flattened. So I mean, that's my whole life to that point was that it was not knowing how to do anything any different. And then the lesser of the evils, so to speak. You know what I mean? I wasn't robbing people and shooting people no more. I was just selling drugs and guns. You know what I mean?
yeah, so through all this time and everything that's happened in your life and going in and out of jail, the drugs, family and all that, what was your turning point?
Can you
What
hear
was
me?
something? Yeah, I can hear you. You're good. You're good. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all anymore?
Okay, so I can talk about like what happened when I flattened the 24-year sentence.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're good.
It's gonna take a few minutes to do it though. Is that what you want me to get into now?
Yeah, you can talk about that, bro. You're good.
I can't hear anything you're saying. You know, so for y'all that can hear and you see me looking like this, let me explain. I'm going blind, and so I have to squint really hard just to be able to see anything. I have a disease called keratoconus. It's an eye disease. So all I see is shadows and silhouettes now. You know what I mean? I tell people I'm just a blind ex gangster that loves Jesus now. You know what I mean? But what led me to be where I'm at tonight, today, right now, even be free right now, it's definitely uh, a God thing. You know what I mean? So in April 2019, I'd been out of prison a year, flattened a 24-year sentence, and I got a 13-count drug indictment. And by the time I got this 13-count drug indictment, I had, for the first time in my life, became a full-blown drug addict. I became addicted to methamphetamine and cocaine. And so I got my heart broke. And I always heard that, people do drugs to numb the pain. And when my first marriage went left, it just didn't go right. It really hurt me. It set me up for something that I had never known in my life, heartbreak. Remember, I'd been through all this violence and all this abuse in my life, and I actually just didn't think I could ever love somebody or be loved. And so I fell in love, and it just didn't go good. So when it fell apart, I fell apart, and I became addicted to drugs, trying to numb my pain. And it got so bad that I had somebody teach me how to put a needle in my arm. And for a year straight, every day, I did drugs trying to kill myself. I shot up cocaine, I shot up methamphetamine. I became a real evil person, a real sadistic person on top of what I already was. Now I was addicted. I remember weeks after getting high the first time, my pain come back. And I remember that when that heartbreak came back, my heartbreak was worse than it had ever been in my life. And the drugs made it that way. But by the time I realized the drugs didn't numb my pain, I was addicted to the drugs. And this was the most shameful part of my life ever, because growing up, I was very well known and respected as a white gangster that didn't do drugs, that didn't mess with these things. And I always looked at drug dealers and drug users, especially meth heads, like they were just the scum of the earth. And I had became these things. I became a woman abuser. I pimped women out. I beat on them. I made them sell drugs for me. I had drug houses everywhere in Lebanon, Tennessee. I was selling to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And I had a lot of people living in fear. I was destroying a lot of lives. But most of all, I was destroying my life and my family's life and the ones that love me. And at my lowest in my life, I was doing a quarter ounce of meth a day. And so when I got indicted in April 2019, they indicted me with a 13-count indictment, if I remember correctly. And what came with this was I was facing 140 years in prison. And so they made me wait 2 months to make bond. I made bond. And I swore to myself that when I made bond, I was never going to let them take me alive. And I knew that I was going to get out. I was going to get high again. And I knew that I was going to go all in. I knew that I was going to live the craziest, wildest life I had ever lived in my life. I knew that I was going to make the police kill me. I knew all these things, right? And that's what my heart was set on. And so the 5 months that I got out in 2010, I got more lost than I ever got in my life. I became more heartbroken. I became more addicted. I did more drugs. I neglected my body and other people more and more than I ever have. And by the time that I got caught on October 3rd, 2019, I was a shell of a human being. I was literally like 150, 155 pounds. And right now I'm 250. So I was literally 100 pounds littler than what I am now. And I remember days before I got caught, I was riding around with a machine gun on me, an AR-15 with 250 round clips. And I was telling everybody, this is the gun I'm going to die with when they come for me. And I'm telling you, with my whole heart, I meant to die. And days before I got caught, somebody come up wanting me to sell this gun. And I didn't want to let this gun go for nothing. I mean, this gun was my way out of this hell that I was living. You know what I mean? Like, I was going to use this to escape all the pain for real this time. But for some reason, I sold the gun for cheap. I mean, like for dirt cheap. Don't even know why. Now I do because God wanted me to. But then I just
Yeah.
couldn't understand why I did it. But like a day or two later, I think, is when I got caught butt naked in bed with my first wife at my friend's house. And they end up letting the police come in and get me. But long story short, that morning when it was one cop that come and got me, and when he walked in, he just said, "Look, Jeremy, you're not in trouble." He said, "The judge is just looking for you, trying to give you a court date. I'm supposed to take you to court, and then they're going to release you." Now, I knew that I was never getting out of prison again. I knew that when they put
Yeah.
them handcuffs on me, they
A
was
wrap.
not fixing to let me out. You know what I mean? I was not that dumb. I knew how this worked.
Yeah.
But I'm butt naked, and I'm looking at this little old man cop thinking, I can push this dude down, run, and get away. But it would have sucked to run through the woods naked, man. Let me tell you, it wouldn't have been a fun trip at all. But I was tired, man. I was beat down. My body was ravished. I had been on these drugs. They had been just eating me alive, man. And I stood up. I put my hands in the air. The cop let my wife put my clothes on me, and I let him put the handcuffs on me. And this is where my journey begins to be different. And I'm not here to convince you of nothing. I'm just here to tell you what happened to me from this point on. When they put them handcuffs on me, I knew I was never getting out. I knew that I was going to lose my first wife. I knew I was never going to get to be a father. I knew I was never going to get out of prison again. I knew I was going to die in prison. I was going to go blind in prison. Um, I had a lot of fears and I had a lot of things that I was for sure certain about. And I knew that all my family was going to die while I was in prison because, you know, I'd been locked up my whole life. Everybody I ever loved and cared about died while I was locked up. So they put these gloves on me, I mean, these cuffs on me. They take me to jail. I sleep for 3 days in a booking cell on a concrete slab. I sleep like I'm on a freaking Serta mattress. My body was so tired from being up for so long and running so long on drugs. I slept the best I've ever slept in my life those 3 days in a holding cell in Wilson County Jail. But when I got took back to classification, that's where my life changed. I remember being in a holding cell by myself, withdrawing, hungry, tired, weak, fatigued, feeling like that I was going to die. I mean, every breath hurt me. I hated and cussed every breath. I didn't want to live, man. And I remember I started talking to God, and I've hated God. I could tell you anything about the Bible, anything about God. People used to trip that I knew so much about God that I hated God. But I remember talking to God, and my conversation with God was like, God, I don't even think I can F and believe in you. I'm so GDF'd up, God. I don't even think you want to talk to me anyway. But I said, I tell you what I am going to do, God. I said, if you show me you're real, I'll give you the rest of my life. And I said, God, I'm a liar. I'm a thief. I'm a killer. I'm a gangster. I'm a manipulator. I'm a junkie. Like I'm a woman beater. I'm God. I'm all these freaking things. And I said, but if you show me you're real, and I'll give you the rest of my life. And I kind of like made a deal with God that day for him to show me he was real. And so for every day for 2 years in Wilson County Jail, I got up and I prayed and I read the Bible. And when I read, y'all, it's like I read like this. And I started learning the word, memorizing the word of God, man. Like it looks like I'm eating something when I'm reading it. You hear me? And I can't even see the phone right now, man. It's just a freaking. I'm just looking at this thing like I don't even know what's going on right now. So,
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
so I start reading the Bible, studying it. I start telling people about it. I start trying to change myself, and I'm doing this in jail where it's hard to do. Remember, I got this big violent reputation, and people are believing that I can't do this thing, and some people are testing me and trying me to see if I'm changing, and I get in a couple of scuffles while I'm trying to do this, and I hurt a few people, but it's very hard, man. Like I was having like psychological breakdowns trying to give my life to God and change, and but for 2 years I did this, y'all, and one day, and they didn't let me have a cellie because of my reputation. But one day I was in my cell and I was praying. And while I was praying and laying on the floor, man, I felt something happen to me this day. And I know it was the baptism of the Holy Ghost now. But the day that this happened, y'all, I've never experienced nothing like this. I'm sitting there, I'm praying, and boom, man, I just feel something come inside of me, y'all, and just completely just rip all this bad, crazy stuff that I had ever felt in my life out of me. I mean, all the pain, the anger, the anxiety, the confusion, the doubt, all the thinking I'm going to be a drug addict for the rest of my life. I mean, all these things that were hopeless in my life, y'all. This day, in this moment, I felt every bit of it immediately leave. And for the first time in my life, y'all, I took a deep breath and I started crying and I started screaming in this jail cell, man, hollering loud. It was so loud, people was coming to my cell door saying, Casper G, you all right? And man, I'm hollering. I'm like, man, get off my door. God is real. Like I just felt it. Like Jesus is real, man. I know what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, man. And that day that happened to me, man, I knew I'd never be everything I was my whole life. The things that thought I would only ever be for the rest of my life. In that moment, I knew that was gone. So I knew that I wasn't a killer no more, a junkie no more, a drug dealer, a gangster no more, none of these things. And I'm crying and I'm thanking God for showing me he's real because I wasn't asking God to get me out of nothing. I was asking God to get me through what I was going through and show me he was real. And that day that this happened, I knew that for the rest of my life that I was going to serve God. I knew that I was going to die in prison serving God. And I even started telling God I wanted to go to every prison in Tennessee and evangelize because people knew me as a gangster that hated God. And I was just showing God that I was real now, like I was sincere and I wanted to do this. And, it started making sense. I didn't see where God was at the first 2 years I was pursuing God. But in that moment, God showed me how that for 2 years, I never went without food or hygiene. I never got cold. I had thermals. I had visits. I had pictures. I had people that were coming to see me. He showed me that for 2 weeks. He was showing me he was there, but I couldn't see it yet because I hadn't received the baptism of the Holy Ghost. And so, man, I was just happy. I was the freest person in that jail. I tell people I was more free than them guards that come to work there and got to go home. Like, man, there was nothing in me that was restricted no more. I was just free. But 2 weeks after this, I got the worst news of my life, and I got carried to book in the Wilson County Jail and in handcuffs at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I got told that my baby brother was just found dead in prison. So within 2 weeks, I experienced the greatest thing of my life and the worst thing of my life. 10 days before my brother's parole hearing, my baby brother Benjamin Adam Caldwell, aka Bones, was supposed to go for parole. Somebody gave my brother some fentanyl and killed him. And this is the hardest thing I've been through in my life. At this time, I had accepted that I was never getting out. I had even gotten a divorce from my first wife because she wasn't there for me no more. And she wasn't trying to be a wife anyway. And I accepted that I was going to be alone for the rest of my life. But then I got saved and I got free. And now I had to learn to live without my baby brother who was close to going home and who had a child. And I kind of remember questioning God, like, why him, God? He's got a kid. I don't have a kid. I'm going to die in prison. You know what I mean? Like, why not me, God? I ain't got nothing to live for. And my brother was on fire for Jesus like me. He loved God. He just had a moment of weakness and he relapsed and he died. And but through the pain, God got me through it. God showed me how to look at what happened to my brother different. God showed me that, hey, my brother could have got to that point to where he was completely junked out again, wanting to die, miserable, hating his life. But God showed me that my brother didn't get to that point and that my brother made a decision to do something that cost him his life. So I didn't blame God for my brother dying. I didn't blame God for me being in jail because God showed me all these things. He showed me that I did what I did to get myself locked up. For the longest, I hated the guy that told on me because he was like a brother and he betrayed me. But I eventually forgave that guy because God showed me that that guy was the reason I came to know him. And I forgave that guy. And to this day, man, that guy's like my brother. I've helped him get into rehab and get his life together. And he's like my brother. But I went through 5 lawyers in Wilson County Jail. And I went through a lot of tough stuff in that jail. Lost 15 family members, 30 or 40 friends while I faced the rest of my life. And I was on my fifth lawyer and a week from going up for trial whenever I was blessed to walk out of court one day with a 12-year sentence. So God set me free spiritually and mentally and emotionally. And then God was showing me that physically I was going to be free one day. And then I had to go back to prison though. So you see, I've learned how to run to God and talk to God and take everything to God at this point. I told God, I said, God, when I get back to prison, these gangsters are going to come to me and they're going to want me to get back down. I said, God, I need you to go before me and I need you to take care of this because God, I choose you. I don't choose nothing no more. And sure enough, I get back to prison. I go back through Bledsoe, and then I go back to Hardeman County, where I was at 20 years ago, where I turned my back on God at, said I'd never believe in God, that I hated God, where I was a gangster at, and where I was a violent gangster at, and a God-hating gangster at. And I go back to this prison. And for the next 18 months of my life, I evangelized this prison. But I had to step in front of them gangsters when I got there, and I had to tell them, a bunch of them, like, man, I gave my life to God. I'm not living this life no more. And respectfully, man, them brothers told me, man, go do what you want to do, man. But if we find out you're playing with God, then we're going to do something to you. So it was like God had gave me this calm and this peace with the gangsters and with every other gang and gang leader in the prison system. And man, at a time in my life where I was the most vulnerable, going blind, I was the most protected. God shielded me. Every gang leader I knew stepped in and kind of watched over me and had my back, and everybody knew I was serious about my walk. I preached a couple of times while I was in the prison. It's on YouTube right now, and I met some really good brothers that were living the same life I was in Hardeman County. And let me explain this to you. Trousdale, I had seen violence like I'd never seen before, but when I went back to Hardeman County, I'd never encountered violence like this in my life. I really felt like that I was in the the deepest, darkest part of hell that existed. In this prison, there's 2,000 inmates under one roof, and it was short staffed. We would go for hours not seeing guards. People were committing suicide. They were cutting their necks, cutting their wrists, laying in puddles of blood, overdosing, laying dead for hours. It would be like that before a guard would walk in and see anything. I was doing CPR on people, saving people's lives. We were cutting people down. We were trying to wrap sheets and blankets and shirts around people's wounds to keep them from bleeding to death. Man, we were shoving Suboxone and meth in their mouth and up their nose when they were overdosing on fentanyl. Man, we were locked down all the time. We would walk through puddles of blood to go to the chow hall, y'all. And I spent 18 months in the worst place of my life, the freest guy in that prison, man. I had a couple of incidents, a couple of fights where I hurt a couple of people, but never one time was I harmed. Never was I hurt. And I walked up out of that prison May the 24th, 2024. And I've been out now going on 2 years. And I have a ministry called Cast the First Stone Ministry. And it's about not judging a book by its cover. It's about not putting a limit on God's grace. But I'm blessed. I get to go in jails and juveniles and I get to tell my story. I get to do newspaper. I've been in newspaper articles. I get to do podcasts and radio shows with good people like my brother here. Um, I got a book coming out. I'm an author, man, and it's all God. It's all God showing me things that He wanted me to have in my life. I go live homeless every other week in a different county in Tennessee right now. I'm doing this thing called Evangelize Tennessee. And as my buddy Steve Trice says, it's a God is not done with you tour. Every county I go to, man, I live on the streets. I live out of a van, and I live homeless in the heat, the cold. I don't bathe like a lot of people. I eat what people give me to eat. I raise money to help people. I get people off the streets and rehabs and detoxes if they want. I tell people about Jesus. I baptize people. I lead people to the Lord. And I have the most amazing life ever. And the greatest thing yet is I'm remarried to a woman that loves me and cares about me. I'm a first time dad to a 10-month-old little girl named Lily Ann Darlene Caldwell. She was born last April on April 18th on Good Friday. She came home on Easter. So I feel like God really wanted me to have this little girl and her to be something special to me. Um, but I'm human. I've never made it in this world. I've been out going on 2 years, which is 2.5 years is my record. But the difference between me now and me then is that, man, God took those evil thoughts from me. I don't think about being a gangster, a killer, a drug dealer, a drug addict. I don't think about being a hustler. I think about being a man of God every second of every day of my life. And I've stumbled a lot. I've not been a great husband since I've been out. I've not been the best man of God because I'm learning everything now that I've never learned before, and I'm learning it as a man of God. I'm completely transparent with people. I tell people I'm not here to condemn you to hell. I'm Jeremy Caldwell. I ain't Jesus Christ. The Word of God tells me that all I can do is plant and water, but God can give the increase. I don't act like I'm better than nobody. I don't hold my nose in the air at nobody. Um, man, I come from the dirt. You know what I mean? I've been through all this juvenile jail, prison, abuse, drug addiction. Um, I've been through a lot of stuff a lot of people have been through. I don't think my story is extraordinary. I don't, I really don't. This is all about God, His grace, His mercy, how He's a God of love, and He's proved to me to be that by opening doors only He can open and by closing doors only He can close, And for the first time in my life, I'm the best version of myself that I've ever been, and it's all because of Jesus in my eyes. And all I want to do for the rest of my life is share the love of Christ, and reach as many people as I can. I want to introduce as many people to Jesus as I can before I'm not here, before I go blind. I just want God to use me. I make myself available for God. I'm actually, I got a book called Smoke Screens coming out. I'm going through a Thomas Nelson company, I think, called Westbow. The book's supposed to be in editing right now. So um,
You have a
it's
release date for
weird.
that?
I've read my own book and it's a book about me. So it's just weird to me. You know what I mean? But I pray that it does one thing. I pray that it encourages people to give their life to the Lord and get to know God, because that's all it's supposed to do. I don't care about money. I don't care about fortune. I don't care about fame. I don't care about none of that stuff, man. I just care about trying to be a good man of God.
You have a release date for your book?
Are we
Can you
good?
can you hear me now or no?
I can't hear you.
All right, we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it right here, right now. Then, since we can't hear anything like that, this was Anthony Cruz with the Real Lives Collective, and we're gonna end it right here.
Still can't hear you.
We're just having some difficulties and stuff. We're gonna end it right here. We're good.
Good.
Yeah.